The mop slipped from his tired hands and clattered loudly against the polished marble floor, echoing through the empty office like a mistake he could no longer afford to make. For a moment, Armin Qureshi froze, his breath shallow, his heart racing as if even the silence might judge him. It was nearly midnight, and failure had started to feel louder than any sound in the world. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, take a moment to comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Heartfelt Stories, because stories like this deserve to be heard. Armin had never imagined his life would shrink into the quiet shadows of a corporate tower after hours. Once, his days had been filled with laughter, with small footsteps running across a modest apartment, and with dreams that felt close enough to touch. But life had rewritten his story without warning. After losing his wife to a sudden illness, everything shifted overnight. Grief became his constant companion, and responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders. His 5-year-old daughter, Meher, became his entire world, the only light that kept him moving forward even when everything else felt impossibly dark. The night cleaning job was not a choice born of ambition, but of necessity. During the day, he worked odd shifts at a local warehouse, barely making enough to cover rent and groceries. At night, he cleaned offices he would never belong to, wiping desks that held lives far removed from his own struggles. Sleep became a luxury he rarely tasted. Still, every morning, he packed Meher's lunch, braided her hair with clumsy but loving fingers, and sent her off to school with a smile he forced into existence just for her. The building he cleaned was one of the most prestigious corporate headquarters in the city, a place where decisions worth millions were made under bright lights and confident voices. By the time Armin arrived, those voices were gone, replaced by silence and the hum of machines. He moved through the floors like a ghost, unseen and unnoticed, carrying with him a quiet determination to survive. One night, something unusual caught his attention. On the 32nd floor, where executives worked, a faint flicker pulsed from one of the conference rooms. It was not supposed to be on. At first, he ignored it, focusing on his routine, but the flicker persisted, almost like a signal asking to be seen. Curiosity tugged at him, stronger than caution. When he stepped inside, he noticed a wall-sized digital display glitching erratically. Charts flashed, numbers scrambled, and the system seemed trapped in an endless loop of errors. Armin did not belong in that room, and he knew it. But something in him stirred, something buried beneath exhaustion and years of compromise. Before life had taken its harsh turn, he had studied computer systems. He had once been close to building a career in tech before responsibilities forced him to abandon that path. His hands hesitated, hovering over the console. This was not his job. If anyone found him here, it could cost him everything. Yet, as he thought of Meher's bright eyes and the future he wanted for her, he made a quiet decision. He stepped forward. The system's problem was not simple. It required patience, focus, and a clarity of mind that Armin had not felt in years. But as he worked, something extraordinary happened. The noise of his struggles faded. The weight of his grief softened. For the first time in a long time, he felt capable again. Minutes turned into an hour as he carefully diagnosed the issue, tracing the errors back to a corrupted update that had gone unnoticed. He fixed it. The flicker stopped. The screen stabilized. The room returned to its intended state, calm and precise, as if nothing had ever been wrong. Armin stepped back, his heart pounding, unsure whether to feel proud or afraid. He quietly returned to his cart and continued his work, telling himself it was just a moment, nothing more. But it was not nothing. Unbeknownst to him, someone had been watching from a remote monitoring system. The company's CEO, Zayn Malik, had noticed the anomaly and the unexpected resolution. Initially frustrated by yet another technical failure, Zayn had accessed the system feed, only to witness something he had not expected. A cleaning worker, someone invisible to the corporate hierarchy, had solved the problem his top engineers had struggled with for days. The next night, Armin arrived as usual, unaware that his life was about to change. He moved through the floors with the same quiet rhythm, but when he reached the 32nd floor, he found someone waiting. Zayn stood there, not with anger, but with curiosity. Fear gripped Armin instantly. He imagined losing his job, disappointing his daughter, falling deeper into uncertainty. His hands trembled slightly as he prepared for the worst. But instead of accusations, Zion asked him to show what he had done. Armin hesitated, then slowly retraced his steps from the previous night. As he explained the issue and demonstrated the solution, something shifted in the room. It was no longer a meeting between a CEO and a cleaner. It was a moment where skill, resilience, and hidden potential stood undeniable. Zion saw more than a solution. He saw a man who had been overlooked, someone who had quietly carried brilliance beneath layers of hardship. By the end of that night, Armin was offered something he had not dared to hope for, a chance to work with the company's tech team. The transition was not easy. Doubt followed him into every room. Some colleagues questioned his place. Others underestimated him. But Armin carried years of quiet strength within him. He worked harder than anyone else, not for recognition, but for the promise of a better life for Meher. Slowly, respect replaced doubt. His ideas brought innovation. His persistence solved problems others avoided. And with every small victory, he rebuilt not just his career, but his sense of self. At home, life began to change too. Meher noticed it first. Her father smiled more. He laughed again. The heaviness that once filled their small apartment began to lift. They started sharing simple joys again, like evening walks and bedtime stories that no longer felt rushed or burdened. Armin never forgot where he came from. He continued to greet the cleaning staff with warmth, always seeing them as equals, always remembering the nights when he was one of them. And in quiet moments, he reflected on how close he had come to being lost in the background of someone else's world. As his journey unfolded, it became clear that the turning point had not just been about fixing a system. It had been about someone finally seeing him. Before this story ends, take a moment to comment, second chances matter. If you believe that everyone deserves to be seen and valued, no matter where they start. In the end, Armin stood not as a symbol of luck, but as a testament to resilience, to hidden potential, and the quiet power of doing the right thing even when no one is watching. His story reminds us that sometimes the smallest unnoticed moments carry the power to change everything. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and engage with the video. Because stories like these keep hope alive in a world that often forgets to look closer.